Hi guys, I hope you're all having a great day. Today I really wanted to talk about some tips and tricks that I have learned throughout my journey of being a person who stutters. The first tip that I use for myself is I really use my hands. And that is one thing that has really helped me to gain fluency or even a little momentum when I talk, is that when I move my hands, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the rhythm or something about moving my hands, just really gets the speech going, and it just really helps me talk. It just really helps me get the words out. I almost kind of feel like it's like my hands are something that are subconsciously pushing the words out of my mouth, and it's really something that has helped me to speak more fluently and help me to get words out that could be more difficult. I also think that using my hands has helped me to just feel more confident and have more self-esteem. For some reason, when I use my hands, it just really helps me just to feel better, as opposed to just having my hands sitting on my lap. And when I was in the Marine Corps, we usually had to have our hands down to our sides or behind our backs, and that was very challenging for me because I would always end up stuttering more. And I find also that when I use my hands, I don't block as much. So for some reason, I block more when I don't use my hands, and I find that very odd because I honestly don't know why that is, but I seriously don't block as much when I use my hands. It's odd. The second tip that I can tell you about is, I actually heard this from someone else who said that if you try and think of that you're singing in your head, I think it may have been a speech therapist that I saw years ago, and it was basically like, whenever you talk, pretend like you are singing in your head. So what I usually do is I just picture a musical note, and I just try and just speak on that note, almost like a downhill motion. So because usually stutters don't stutter when we sing, because we're using a different part of our brain. So that is one thing. I haven't really used that as much, but I have just started using that, and I find it helps to relax me as well. So as I'm talking, just pretending like I'm singing in my head as I talk, it helps me to get through blocks easier. And it's a relatively new technique that I have been using for myself. And the third tip that I do is I try and make sure that I am breathing. So if I am holding my breath or I'm not breathing correctly, then I stutter much more. So I've really been trying to practice to just focus more on my flow of breath. And this is also something that I learned in speech therapy as well. And I have talked about this in a few of my other videos. But I try to, if I breathe in, I'll try to talk on that flow of breath. So it's like the second tip that I was talking about, is like I pretend I'm talking downhill. So if I breathe in and breathe out and just talk on that flow of breath, I don't stutter as much. And not only that, but when you are breathing more deeply, you're getting more oxygen to your brain. And getting more oxygen has really been helping me to speak more fluently as well. So if I breathe in and just breathe out, I will talk more fluently. And this is a technique that I honestly don't really use as much, because when I'm talking to a person, I'm not really thinking about my breath as much. I'm just trying so hard to focus on not stuttering and getting the words out. Or I don't care if I do stutter, but I'm not really focusing on my breath. There are times when I will talk to someone and I realize that I am holding my breath, and then I think, oh yeah, that's probably why I am blocking more, because I am not breathing. And the fourth tip that I use is that I really try to make sure that I am not putting the other person on a pedestal, so to speak, because what I mean by that is when I'm talking to someone and I'm feeling very nervous, I subconsciously in my head, I'm putting that person, I'm picturing them higher than me. So I'm picturing myself as being lower and less than them, which is not healthy at all. And that has that's one thought that I've been trying to let go of, is what has been hurting my self-esteem and confidence, is I will think that the other person is better than me because they don't stutter. And now what I do is I picture that person that person equal as me, and that really helps me to just see the perspective of who cares if I do stutter with them. And I find that I do stutter much less when I don't picture that person as being better than me. So if I picture the other person as being equal to me, whether they stutter or not, that is something that really helps me be more fluent. So just building that confidence, just to not worry about your speech, is one thing that really helps me. And the fifth tip that I have is don't try to avoid your stutter, and don't try to avoid saying certain words. And this is a tip that I have been using, because when I would try to hide my stutter, I would end up stuttering more. And even if I do stutter still a lot when I talk, I'm so much more confident, and it's something that has really been helping me to just speak to the other person. And even if I stutter or not, it has really been helping me to feel so much better about my speech. It's just something that I do, because when I would hide my stutter and avoid certain words, I think that's probably one of the worst things that as a person who stutters you can do, is avoiding words that you do stutter on. Because once in your mind, when you start avoiding those words, you will not be able to get your point across. You'll feel like you're not being your true self. And I'm speaking from experience, because even now I don't really avoid words that I do stutter on anymore, but when I used to, it was horrible, because I really felt like I was not being myself. So that is tip number 5, is that I'm just making sure that I don't avoid words that I do stutter on. And I know that sounds the opposite of trying to stop, of trying to be more fluent, but that is one thing that has really helped me to actually be more fluent with other words. And the 6th tip that I have is that whenever I'm approaching a word that is difficult for me to say, I really try and slow down. So for instance, the word people, I have a lot of trouble saying. And so what I try and do is when I approach that word, I try and slow down and say people easily. The 7th tip that I have for you is that I really try to forget that I even do stutter. So what I mean by this is, in my mind, I try not to even think about my stutter. I find that the more I think about my stuttering, I stutter so much more. It's a huge difference. Even when I make these videos, if you hear parts where I'm not stuttering as much, it's because I'm not really thinking about my stuttering as much. I'm thinking about the topic that I want to talk to you about. But in my subconscious mind, I'm still trying not to stutter. So that's why sometimes when you hear me, I'm fluent sometimes, or I'm not as fluent. Because the more non-fluent I am, it's because I'm trying so hard not to stutter. So that is what I really try and do, is I really try to make sure that I am not avoiding my stuttering. And this can be very difficult, especially if you are in a situation where you have to present in front of a class, or you have to read out loud, and you're so focused on it. But just really trying to just not think about how much you will stutter or think about your stutter can really help. The 8th tip that I do is I try to talk with a very slight accent, and not so much like an accent, but just more, I try to kind of like fake like a mixed accent, sort of like just basically try to make up a type of accent that is just a bunch of different just like a whole made up accent that I make. And for some reason that also really helps me. Accents are known to help people who do stutter, and they really do help me so much. So I really try to fake a very slight accent. The ninth tip that I have for you is when I talk, I really try to look at the other person in the eye, and that is something that is extremely difficult for me myself. Even when I talk, I usually look to the right or left, up or down, and I have a very hard time looking at the other person in the eye. But it really does help, and it really does show confidence, and it shows that you have higher self-esteem when you look at the other person in the eye. And it gives me so much more confidence when I do look at the other person in the eye. So that is also something that I really try and do.